The rain had been falling since 7 o'clock, the kind of cold, relentless October rain that turns every streetlight into a blurred orange smear and makes the whole world feel like it's grieving something it can't name. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a mug of chamomile tea gone lukewarm, half-heartedly scrolling through old emails I'd already read twice, when I heard it, a knock, not at the door, at the window. I want you to understand something before I go any further. I live alone. I have lived alone for 4 years. In a small house at the end of Caldwell Street in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio, where the nearest neighbor is a retired teacher named Mr. Hartwell, who goes to bed before 9 and whose porch light has been burned out since July. I am a 43-year-old woman named Carol Simmons. I do not have children. I do not have a husband anymore. I have a cat named Biscuit, a dead herb garden on the back porch, and a life that is, by most measures, small and quiet and mine. So when I heard knocking at my kitchen window at 10:15 on a Tuesday night in October, I froze. Then it came again, 3 small, desperate knocks, and then a sound that unmade something deep inside my chest, a child crying. I crossed the kitchen in 4 steps and pulled back the curtain, and there she was. A little girl, no older than 7 or 8, pressed against the glass with her palms flat on the pane, like she was trying to push through it. Her hair was soaking wet, plastered to her cheeks and forehead. She was wearing a yellow raincoat that had clearly not been enough against this weather. And her face, God, her face. Her eyes were wide and red and streaming, and her lip was trembling so hard it looked like she was shaking apart. I had the back door open before I even made a conscious decision to open it. Hey, come here, come here. I pulled her inside and she came willingly, stumbling over the threshold, and I grabbed a dish towel off the counter and pressed it to her soaked hair without thinking. You're okay, I've got you. What happened? Where are your parents? She couldn't speak at first. She just cried, the full body, heaving kind of crying that children do when they have been terrified and cold and alone for too long, when whatever composure they'd been holding on to finally shatters, the moment someone kind touches them. I held her at arm's length and looked her over. No visible injuries, no blood, just a soaked, trembling little girl in a yellow raincoat, with mud on her shoes and sheer panic in her eyes. "What's your name, sweetheart?" She swallowed hard, took a shuddering breath. "Lily," she whispered. "Lily, okay. Lily, my name is Carol. You're safe, okay? You're inside and you're warm and I'm not going to let anything happen to you." I crouched down to her level. "Can you tell me where you live? Where's your mom or dad?" Her face crumpled again and she shook her head, a frantic, desperate shake. "I can't find my daddy," she said. "I went looking for him and I couldn't find him, and then I got lost and I don't know where I am." My stomach dropped. "You went looking for him? Where did you come from, Lily?" She pointed vaguely in the direction she'd come from, back through the rain, into the dark. "We live on the other street, the one with the yellow mailboxes. I know which one mine is because it has a dent. Maple Grove. That was 2 streets over. Maybe a 6-minute walk for an adult in good weather. For a small child, alone in the rain, at night, it must have felt like the end of the world." I sat her down at the kitchen table and got her a glass of water and wrapped one of my old zip-up hoodies around her shoulders because she was still shivering. Biscuit came and sat at her feet with the particular solemnity that cats reserve for people who are suffering, and Lily looked down at him and let out one wet, surprised laugh through her tears. "That's Biscuit," I said. "He has a fat face," she said. "He does," I agreed. "He's very proud of it." She almost smiled. Not quite, but almost. And in that almost smile I saw something, this fierce, frightened, brave little creature who had walked alone through the dark and the rain to find help. I felt something move through me like a current. I called 911, gave them Lily's description, her street, her name. The dispatcher told me an officer would be there within 15 minutes and asked if she was injured. I said no. I said she was scared and cold, but she was safe now. I said I'd keep her with me. While we waited, I made her hot chocolate. She held the mug with both hands like it was a treasure. I sat across from her and I asked her, gently, carefully, not wanting to push, why she had gone looking for her daddy in the middle of the night. She stared into the mug for a long moment. "He wasn't there when I woke up," she said quietly. "He's always there when I wake up. He makes my breakfast before I even come downstairs. He always does it. But tonight, I woke up and the house was dark and he wasn't in his room. And he wasn't in the kitchen and the door was unlocked. And I got scared." She paused. "He said he would always be there. He promised." "I'm sure he meant it," I said carefully. "I'm sure he didn't mean to scare you." "He doesn't go out at night," she said, with the absolute conviction of a child who has catalogued her parents' habits as a form of safety. "He's always home at night because my mom isn't here anymore. And he said he would always be home at night." I didn't ask about the mother. I let that sit. The officer who arrived was a young woman named Deputy Flores, with kind eyes and a calm, practiced steadiness that I was grateful for. She sat with Lily while I stood in the doorway, and within 20 minutes there was a second call. Someone on Maple Grove had reported a man collapsed in the driveway of number 14. Lily's address was 14 Maple Grove. The next hour was a chaos I will never fully be able to reconstruct in clean sequence. An ambulance. Deputy Flores driving Lily to the hospital so she could be with her father. Me sitting alone in my kitchen with cold hot chocolate and biscuit in my lap, staring at the back window where her small palms had been pressed against the glass. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't expect to hear anything more. That kind of thing happens sometimes. A crisis enters your life sideways, shakes you to the bone, and then moves on without resolution. I'd done what I could. I'd kept her warm. I'd called for help. That was the end of my part in the story. Except it wasn't. 3 days later, there was a knock at my front door. A real knock this time, deliberate and measured. I opened it and found a man standing on my porch. He was tall, maybe 45, with dark circles under brown eyes and a left arm in a sling. He was holding Lily's hand. She was wearing a purple jacket this time, dry and bright, and when she saw me, she said, "That's her. Daddy, that's the lady with the fat-faced cat." The man, his name was Daniel Reeve, had collapsed in his driveway from a cardiac event. A minor heart attack, the doctors said, though I have never understood the word minor in that context. He had apparently stepped outside to check on a noise and simply gone down. His phone was inside. Lily had woken, found the door ajar, and done what she did. He stood on my porch and he could not for a moment speak. "She walked to you," he finally said. "She knocked on 3 houses before yours. Nobody answered. I didn't know what to say to that. 3 houses, 3 dark windows with the curtains pulled. 3 adults who had either not heard or not answered, and then my window and me. She saved my life," he said. "If she'd stayed inside and waited, if she'd been too afraid to go out. They said another 20 minutes and I wouldn't have made it. She saved my life and she found you." Lily was looking up at me with an expression of tremendous satisfaction, like she had planned all of it. "She's very brave," I said. "She is," he said. "She's the bravest person I know. She's been the bravest person I know since her mother died 2 years ago." His voice didn't break on that. He said it with the worn steadiness of a man who has said a hard thing so many times it has become a scar rather than a wound, still there. Still tender, but no longer bleeding. She asked if we could come say thank you in person. I told her we absolutely could. Lily let go of her father's hand and held something out to me. A drawing folded in quarters, slightly crumpled at the edges. I unfolded it. It was a crayon drawing of a woman with yellow hair. I don't have yellow hair. Mine is brown going grey. But I understood, standing in a lit doorway with a small girl in a yellow raincoat. Above it, in large, careful, child's handwriting, it said, "Carol kept me safe. I am not a person who cries easily. I have not been a person who cries easily for a long time. Not since the divorce, not since the empty years that followed. I had built a very efficient system for not crying." Standing on my porch on a Friday morning in October, holding a crayon drawing by a little girl in a purple jacket, my system failed completely. I pressed my hand over my mouth. I breathed. Daniel Reeve looked at me with those tired brown eyes, and I understood, in that instant, that we were both people who had been through something and had come out quieter and more careful on the other side. "Would you want to come in?" I asked. "I can make coffee. Or hot chocolate." I looked at Lily. "I have the same kind." She looked at her father. He looked at her. Something passed between them, a whole conversation in a glance. The way it is between a parent and child, who have had to become everything to each other. "We'd like that," he said. "I want you to understand something. I'm not telling you this story because of what happened next, though something did happen next, slowly and carefully and over many months. The way real things happen when both people have been through enough to know not to rush. I am not telling you this story as a love story, though if you asked me today what it is, I am not sure I'd have a better word. I am telling you this story because of Lily, because a 7-year-old girl woke up in the dark and found her world wrong and terrifying. And instead of hiding under the covers and crying alone, she put on her yellow raincoat and walked out into the rain. She knocked on dark windows. She kept going when no one answered. She found a lit kitchen and a woman with a fat-faced cat, and she pressed her hands against the glass and she asked for help. There is a version of that night that goes differently. There is a version where she stays inside, where she waits, where she is too young and too afraid, and too alone to know that help exists and that you have to walk toward it, where a man dies in a driveway on Maple Grove and a little girl's whole world ends. But that is not the version that happened. What happened is that a child was braver than the dark, and the rain, and the silence of 3 unanswered doors. What happened is that she knocked until someone answered. What happened is that her father lived, and she kept the promise he had made to her. The promise that she would not be alone by refusing to accept that she was. Lily is 9 now. She comes over on Saturday, mornings sometimes, and Biscuit tolerates her with great dignity. She is learning to make pancakes. She still has a drawing on the refrigerator at home, a newer one, in marker this time, of a woman with brown going grey hair and a man with his arm around her and a fat-faced cat at their feet. And above it, in the same careful handwriting, "My people." I look at that drawing sometimes when I am sitting at my kitchen table at night, and I think about how close it all came to being nothing, how close I came to not hearing the knock, how close she came to not knocking. And I think, pay attention, leave your lights on, answer the window when something small and frightened is pressing its hands against the glass, because you might be the lit house at the end of the dark street. You might be the one who answers. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that is the whole difference between a story that ends in grief and a story that ends like this one, with a little girl in a purple jacket, standing on a porch in October, holding a drawing that says, "Carol kept me safe," with a man who is alive because his daughter was brave, with me, a woman who was for a long time living a life that was small and quiet and hers, and then one rainy night became so much more. If this story moved you the way it moved me to write it, stay with it for a moment. These are the stories that remind us why kindness matters, why showing up matters, why leaving the light on for someone matters. If you've made it this far, you already know you're someone who cares. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep telling stories worth staying for. I'll see you in the next one.